If Senator Kyrsten Sinema's corruption leading up to and during this infrastructure week that we're in wasn't clear enough, she wants to make sure that you understand where her loyalties lie. She has actually scheduled a fundraiser for this afternoon, as we're filming this, Tuesday afternoon, with 5 different business lobbying groups, many of which fiercely oppose the reconciliation bill. Just don't call it a bribe. It's totally legal because the people taking the bribes have made it legal. Anyway, here's some more details. Under Mrs. Sinema's political logo, the influential National Association of Wholesaler Distributors and the Grocers PAC, along with lobbyists for roofers and electrical contractors, and a small business group called the S Corp Political Action Committee, have invited association members to an undisclosed location on Tuesday afternoon for 45 minutes to write checks for between $1,000 and $5,800 payable to Sinema for Arizona. In terms of what these groups might want out of the senator that they're in the process of buying, well, the S Corp PAC has told its members the rate increases in the package, the reconciliation package, that passed the House Ways and Means Committee, quote, would kneecap private companies like theirs that pay taxes through the individual tax system, not the corporate tax system. And let's see, the chief executive for the National Association of Wholesaler Distributors said in a statement earlier this month, quote, passing the largest tax increase in US history on the backs of America's job creators as they recover from a global pandemic is the last thing Washington should be doing. By the way, have you ever noticed that when Republicans cut taxes, it's always the largest tax cut ever? And anytime taxes are increased, it's the largest tax increase ever. Like everybody talks like Trump when they're talking about taxes. But anyway, for all we know, as we're having this conversation, she's receiving thousands of dollars from people that want her to kill this bill, or at least kill the tax increases, which she has now said she will do. What do you think about this?
It's crazy that these people get to call themselves quote unquote moderates. This is an extreme view, to be honest. This bill that Biden is proposing via reconciliation has pay-fors. Like it's being paid for, right? Like we're not doing this on a credit card. And I love the thing that gets on my nerves too is like when we frame it as 3.5 trillion, we always forget to add over 10 years.
Yep.
Like we can more than afford this. And the fact that this is going to help normal working everyday Americans, and basically these corporatists are gonna have their taxes increased by a little bit, which means their profit margins will decrease by a little bit. It's not like their lives are gonna be materially ruined by these tax increases. It's on the margins, and it's to pay for stuff like universal pre-K and the child tax credit and all of these great things that are gonna help millions of people.
Yep.
Their lives improve like by a lot. The fact that Kyrsten Sinema gets to come out and basically take these legalized bribes and doesn't get publicly shamed for it. Like it's the benefit for the few at the expense of the vast majority of the population. It's ridiculous. Like this is literally what we have a federal government for. It's to do these kinds of things like this bill, and the likes of Kyrsten Sinema could step in front of it. It's maddening.
Yeah, the fact that she has that power, and that she has that power after in no way running for the seat she holds, saying, oh, by the way, if there's an opportunity, I am totally gonna stand with business against all of you. All of my voters, go F yourself. I'm doing it for the people who are writing me these checks. You never have that. And again, it's just legalized bribery. So like, does anyone think that there's not a connection between these two things? That they're giving her this money and she is delivering for exactly what they want during a time when we might get a bill or we might not. And if we get a bill, it might include some things that it might not. It's the most obvious thing in the world, but they're checks to like her PAC or whatever. So it's totally cool. Like think about how much news there was of Lauren Boebert like paying her rent with campaign finance stuff, like the whole cycle about it. And I get it, it's unethical. Like she's being paid off right now, but she's doing it through the system that they've set up that's supposed to be okay. So it is barely mentioned. Like they do talk about it. The New York Times is covering it, but it's not a news cycle of my God, the corruption. MSNBC is not gonna do show after show of how can Biden possibly hope to work with someone who is so fundamentally corrupt? Should she still be in the party? These are not the conversations that they're having, because she's going through the system that the corrupt politicians have set up. And we accept it because it's been around for a while. It's just, the whole thing is disgusting.
To be fair though, is Joe Biden having a conversation? That's my problem with a lot of this. I think the collegiality of the Senate, it is a club, right? Like these guys do treat it like a fraternity, sorority, like it's this, it's a club and they don't want to go after each other, especially members of their own party. And Biden is, as reverential about the Senate as anybody else, but he should be using his bully pulpit to be like, these two idiots are standing in between meaningful change and improvement in the lives of tens of millions of Americans just so that they could receive funding from these business interests. Like Biden should be coming out and using his bully pulpit as president of the freaking United States of America, and he's not doing it, right? So we can talk about MSNBC and CNN, and we don't even got to bother with Fox News not doing it on a daily basis. But Biden should be doing this.
100%. He should be saying, look, I ran on a clear agenda. We got control of the Senate and the House on this clear agenda. She ran on these things herself. If she wants to turn against them, that's up to her. If she wants to raise money from corporate donors, she's gonna need to, because in a couple of years, we're gonna be working to replace her with someone who is not gonna try to sabotage an agenda that so many of her constituents support, that she got elected for. Like imagine if you just throw out a couple of those. It doesn't have to be a Trumpian thing. Like it doesn't have to be weird and obsessive, but he is the leader of the Democratic Party. His agenda is about to be destroyed because of her, and he's acting like it's nothing. And maybe I'm an idiot. Maybe I don't know anything about politics, and maybe whatever stuff he's doing behind the scenes is gonna be more effective than public threats.
Maybe.
But you could do both, honestly. Yeah. The whole thing, again, maybe I'm an idiot, and we get everything we want out of these bills, but it ain't really looking like it at this point. That said, we got a couple more angles on this I want to talk about, including some horrible news in this whole process. But really fast, we've been criticizing Sinema and Manchin too. Manchin, by the way, is now even turning against the carbon tax, which is a nonsense replacement for some of the tax increases. Which now, so we're only going to get slight tax increases. Then we weren't going to get any tax increases, but they'll do the carbon tax. And now he's saying we're not even gonna do a carbon tax. But then you're not raising any money, so how can you pay for anything? Well, he has no problem with that because he doesn't want the bill to include anything. But anyway, we have some of Representative Ilhan Omar and her thoughts on these two senators.
It is saddening to see them use Republican talking points. We obviously didn't envision having Republicans as part of our party. And I hope that they will understand that Democrats need to be united behind the president's agenda. And we need to have urgent conversations on how to get this agenda done.
It's so ridiculous. Like, again, Woz was so right when he pointed out that like her being called like a centrist or a moderate. Again, I am so goddamn sick of those terms. Pretending that they're the middle point between anything. They are their own radical point, radical supporters of the status quo that benefits those who are already doing well and are already wealthy. That is what they're doing. So now you have a decidedly moderate or centrist president whose agenda is being supported by the insane left. And the moderate and centrists are threatening to destroy the entire thing. So I'm glad that she's pointing that out, especially because Woz, we should expect that. You know what? I'll throw this out here. Pelosi's now saying you're going to have to vote on the bipartisan bill before the other one. So after like months and months of saying you ain't going to get one unless you get the other, that was literally her terminology. Now she's saying you got to vote for one without the other. So we've been waiting for this. The knife is in our back now. Okay, it's not much of a surprise. And she's saying that it's because well, you know, now they're saying they don't want 3.5 trillion, and that really threw things off like a week ago. But we knew that they were going to try to betray us. So Nancy Pelosi doesn't get to use their betrayal as cover for her own. But in any event, now the progressives, if they do what they've been saying they will do, which is vote against the bipartisan bill, if it's not passed at the same time as the reconciliation one, then do we have any doubt that the media is going to present them as the ones that destroyed this whole thing when they've been standing with Biden the entire goddamn time. And Sinema and Manchin are the ones who have been throwing up ever shifting goalposts of how this bill can't include anything. But they're gonna end up saying that it's Ilhan Omar and it's AOC and it's Rashida Tlaib. That's what I feel. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, 100%. Because as you know, in the media, they never frame bipartisanship as, how about bipartisanship amongst voters? The first COVID relief bill that Biden passed had like a 75% approval rating amongst voters, which means both Republican and Democratic voters loved it. And this bill is in the high 60s as far as approval from voters of both parties. It's bipartisan, okay? Yeah, sure, the lunkhead Republican caucuses aren't into it, as far as people who are in the federal government, but as far as voters, everyday people, both Republicans and Democrats love it, want it, think it's gonna be great. But the corporate media will never frame it as such. If Mitch McConnell isn't on board with it, then it ain't bipartisan, which is complete and utter nonsense, because we know Mitch McConnell cares about one thing and one thing only, and that is making our overlords in the oligarchy richer and richer and richer at the expense of literally every single thing else. Nothing else matters to this dude. Yet somehow we present his views as like basically in line with some large contingent of voters. His voters don't care about that.
You're 100% right. The only thing I would add is he also really likes stopping Democrats from putting people on the Supreme Court. He also likes that, and he's promised that he is going to do that again. Okay, so really fast, I also want to let you know the Republicans blocked a Senate bill to fund the government. I mean, I'm not surprised. Obviously, supposedly they're going to try again in a little bit, but yeah, we just have to keep doing this ridiculous dance around actually paying our obligations. And whoever's in charge tries to get it done, and the other side tries to stop it. It's so stupid. It's one of the stupidest things about our politics, and it's a politics that is very, very stupid.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.